We right now have some real issues with two invasive species, one an insect, the emerald ash borer, that we're seeing a lot of indication of that's going to cause some real significant mortality in our ash trees here in Pittsburgh and throughout Pennsylvania. And the other is a fungal disease called oak wilt, which causes death in our oaks.
Emerald ash borer is an introduced insect from Asia that is actually killing white ash and green ash trees across the state of Pennsylvania, Ohio, and Michigan. This is going to be an ongoing situation that isn't going to go away, so we have to learn how to manage these pest problems using whatever resources that we have and looking at ecological associations so that we can set up an amelioration strategy that we can live with.
Well, that's classic. That what you see right there for emerald ash borer. That is what you look for at this time of the year. The woodpeckers go and pick the ridges off the bark and they take them. You're into the infestation probably 3 years at that point.
With oak wilt, this is a disease that is somewhat diffuse in its impact, in that it isn't going to necessarily affect every oak on the park system, but it works in small patch areas in which require early recognition and response. And the response is to remove infected trees as soon as possible and remove root grafts between red oak tree species in the same stand, and try to restrict the incidence of the disease to small, manageable areas. So once you have removal, there'll be a process of amelioration and restoration. And the restoration component is going to be very important for introducing a suitable community of tree species, changing the numbers of individual susceptible trees, reduce those numbers, and try to encourage some other tree species to occupy some of these sites so that we have a better mix of oak and maple and hickory and cherry and a few other species that are likely to be prevalent.
They're very serious. Oak wilt, as I mentioned earlier, is a very manageable disease. Probably one of the lesser threats when you compare it to something like emerald ash borer, or hemlock woolly adelgid. I realize now that you don't have many hemlocks, but many of these recently discovered insects are extremely troublesome and will have a tremendous impact on changing the species composition of the forest, changing the diversity, and really changing the overall landscape. Of course, we've talked a little bit about some of the invasive plants that occur here. They're another issue that we've dealt with nationally, and they're extremely important components of our landscape, in most cases detrimentally.
Pittsburgh has some of the finest parks that I've ever seen. They're old. They were reserved for public use many years ago. They've upgraded them with capital improvements during the years. Some of the forestry and the wildlife issues are starting to be addressed, and I'm real happy that this particular get-together today, because Pittsburgh is looking at where are they going to go with their parks. They need to put together some kind of a coherent plan of where are we today, where do we want to go, and how are we going to get there. And when we come up with issues like oak wilt and the emerald ash borer, how are we going to deal with that? How are we going to revegetate different areas? And there's a whole lot of talent from different universities are here today in this meeting, and boy, I'm real positive about this whole event. I think it's going to be good for Pittsburgh.